to Morning Market Call. My name is Jeff Butler, and with me today is Chris Colton,
Hi,
second-year MBA student at BYU, international business tycoon extraordinaire. Thanks for being on the show.
I'm glad you had me on the show today.
You bet. So Chris has had now going on 6 years experience working in East Asia. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about Korea in particular, and some of the major changes that are going on within Korea and how that affects, the global economy. So Chris, tell us a little bit about your experience overseas working in Korea. Was there anything that sticks out to you as far as being a highlight from that experience?
Well, working in Korea was a great experience. I enjoyed being over there. I love Korea. It's very near and dear to my heart, as you might know.
Very good.
And being in Korea, I worked for LG Electronics, which, as many of you know, as you might know, is a producer of consumer electronics goods. And it was really a good experience. I liked that it offered me a multinational outlook on business, and I enjoyed being over there. I really liked working in Korea and the people that I was working with.
Awesome. So I've heard a lot about Korea lately as far as its economic growth. What do you think has spurred the recent economic growth that we've seen?
Well, I don't think that it's been a new development. I think that for the most part, Korea has been steadily growing since the 80s. They had a little hiccup in 1994-ish with the International Monetary Fund and having to repay some of their loans. But the transition that I think has been of the most important part of the transition to where they are today has been the improvements in their quality of their products. Many people, there's been Hyundai cars for a long time, and there's been Samsung TVs for a long time, but to the level that they are now, there's been a big leap in quality and in design. People find their products to be not only useful and better quality, but attractive as well.
Right, that's true. It seems like Samsung, especially their television sets, obviously Hyundai, with their
cars are getting a lot better. They look a lot nicer.
People are still really starting to recognize the improvements that Korea's made as far as the quality of their products. So
and that was one aspect that was really holding them back. So that alone, I think, has been one of the major improvements in moving them into the world stage, as it would be.
Right. So speaking about kind of their interaction with world markets and things, let's talk about the free trade agreement. And
that's a good thing we can talk about. Korea has just this last week signed a free trade agreement with the European Union, and that's going to go into effect this coming July. Last year, they also entered into a free trade agreement with the United States. That has not passed yet. Korea's passed their part. The United States, we're still waiting for Congress to kind of move forward with that. And Korea is actually spending a lot of money and efforts to lobby towards getting it passed.
Right. So what does all that entail with the free trade agreement?
Well, what the free trade agreement does is it lowers the barriers to entry into the market for U.S. companies or for European companies into Korea, and vice versa. It allows Korean companies to export, and then they don't have to pay any tariffs. They don't have to pay any duties on top of the price. And one of the reasons that's a real strength to Korea is that in the region they're in Asia, they're one of the only countries who are really pursuing that. Japan has about 17% of their trade volume covered by free trade agreements, and Korea has, with the ones that they have are currently on the table, about 36% of their trade volume will be covered. So that really gives an advantage to Korea in moving forward as they want to compete and push more of their products into the U.S. And as we buy them, it makes the prices cheaper for us.
Yeah. So now I want to make sure that we're clear. We're specifically talking about South Korea and these types of policies. Obviously, North Korea is in a different place economically, politically, than South Korea, and so really all this is pertaining to the growth and development as South Korea kind of opens its borders and really becomes more of an international player.
And that's exactly what it is. It's interesting that you mentioned North Korea in that South Korea does have some manufacturing facilities in North Korea, and the goal with those is they're trying to be similar to China, and they want to get the low labor costs, and that's actually one of the hang-ups for the U.S. And Korea free trade agreement is,
right.
Are those products going to be considered a Korean-made product, or are they not? Because there's some definite political issues that you need to skirt around with that.
Definitely. So what do you think is on the horizon for Korea? Are there any potential concerns economically?
Well, I think as we look forward on the horizon, the automotive industry in Korea is really growing. Hyundai and Kia together are the #1 fastest growing automotive manufacturer in the world.
Wow.
And it's interesting that most of that growth is actually taking place in China and India, not in the U.S. Where we've actually seen them grow quite a bit as well. But they're moving into a lot of the world markets and not specifically into one singular market. And Samsung took over as the top revenue-producing electronics company in the world in the past couple of years. I mean, that's one thing that Korean people are very proud of. It seemed like it would never happen in their lifetime that they could beat out Sony, but Samsung is there. It's one of the top electronics producers. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So, I kind of alluded to some potential concerns, and one that we've spoken about prior is a specific concern for those, especially interested or have a love with the Korean cuisine.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
For those who enjoy Korean food, Korean barbecue, or any of the wonderful dishes they have, and not so much for us here, but for those in Korea, there's a kimchi crisis going on. And this is happening specifically because of the poor weather conditions, and the crop yield has been down so much.
Wow.
And this is actually, it's very interesting economically, because the price of cabbage, which is the main ingredient in kimchi, about 3 months ago was about $2 a head, and right now it costs about $12, $13 a head.
Wow.
So a little over 400% inflation in the space of a month. The Korean government is actually very worried about it. They're lowering trade tariffs on it so they can import it as fast as they can. So I mean, it really plays this. It kind of hits home with everybody, because you can't have a meal in Korea without having kimchi with it. So.
Wow. Well, we certainly extend our condolences, our sympathies to those in Korea suffering from the kimchi shortage. We hope that, of course, things are better for the future. And,
yeah, that's the big, everybody's pushing for, that we get some more kimchi in the future. But I know that I'm going to miss it. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for being on the show today, talking to us about Korea. Very interesting subject, something that's kind of new and exciting in the global marketplace.
I think Korea is definitely a place that we need to look out for in the future and keep watching out for. So.
Excellent. Thank you again, and we'll look to see you next time on Morning Market Call.
Morning Market Call is brought to you by the Marriott School of Management in cooperation with the Brigham Young University Department of Communications. MMC is made possible by generous donations from Larry TASHJIAN and Gary Williams. This show was produced by Jeff Butler, JANESSA CLOWARD, David Wood, and Doug Mumford, with line producing by BETH GRIMMETT. For more information, please follow us on Twitter and Facebook.